Okay, let's have a look at this essay. I've already made some of the changes, so I'll just talk you over those. So, two-part question. Many people complain about commercial advertisements and their influence on children. Should it be controlled by the state? Question 1. What are the possible effects on children? Question 2. All the people have complained. Now, this is current, so I wouldn't use past perfect there. Have complained. It's current, so watch those tense use. About the effects of marketing advertising on their youngsters. In my view, the state should act to curb this problem by banning non-authorized advertisements. Otherwise, not the same as unless. The results such as, now this I wasn't quite sure, it's misbehaving of our children. So children's misbehavior, and why would it be undeniable? So that's not very clear. Advertising is a progressive trend. You mean it is increasing. In the consumer society of today, which often aims marketing at children, and this is where a government intervention is required. Don't need an article there. In the current competitive world, advertising companies do anything to win at all costs. Win what? It's not a competition, such as using children. Now, there's a big difference here. Using children means having children in the advertisements. But this is talking about advertisements aimed at children, not the same thing. So using children to advertise is not the same thing as aiming the advertisements may be aimed at children, but using children is not the same thing. In this situation, the government should step forward. I don't know why you made it passive there, to ban advertising targeted at young children. For instance, whatever the subject of the advertisement is. If someone aims to produce advertisements related to children, they should get authorization from the state. The biggest onus is on the government to manage advertising aimed at children. Using, again, not quite the same thing. Using youngsters in advertising has a detrimental impact on them that can lead, why is it passive, to children misbehaving. This is because children are unable to differentiate between the actual TV programs and commercials. Therefore, little children can easily be influenced by advertisements, so they pester their parents to buy the products advertised on TV and social media. If parents resist their children, they might. But now this is it's a bit of a stretch. Rebel against the rules laid by their elders. As a result of this trend, children can be disobedient. How can you prove that? You cannot prove this. Which is one of the influences that advertisements could have on children. In conclusion, although many advertising companies are working with children, steps should be taken on a war footing. That's not appropriate language there. To protect their innocent childhood. The government should scrutinise any advertisement related to children, to prohibit non-authorised advertisements. This could alleviate, etc. Now, non-authorised, but I thought it said government control. So if they're still advertising junk food and drink, shouldn't they be banned? So this argument is kind of circular. It's not as clear as it could be. So let's have a look at the criteria first. Well, so get me a pen. All parts of the prompt, more or less. All parts of the prompt, clear position, more or less. Some of it's a little general though, So, overly generalized. Some parts of a prompt, some may be more fully covered than others. Conclusions drawn may be repetitive, unjustified, insufficiently developed. So let's just go back and I'll show you what I mean. So these three sentences, where is it? Okay, yeah. These three sentences here are basically identical. They pester their parents. If they resist, they might rebel. As a result of this trend, what trend? The rebelling trend. Children can be disobedient. So these sentences are pretty similar here. You talk about advertisements. They pester, but if they don't get it, they rebel, disobedient. So, okay. But it doesn't really tell me what they might do. Rebel how? What does that mean? What? Refuse to do their homework? Be disobedient? Be disobedient how? Doing what? Exactly. And you haven't really told me what these advertisements are. Junk food and drinks. What? So, for example, what? Are you talking about advertisements for Coca-Cola? Are you talking about advertisements for a particular brand of chocolate? It's a little bit vague, So, some arguments, well, simply assertion. They may be disobedient. Who says so? How? They may, so it's not, the evidence could be a little clearer. I mean, I would like to give it a 7, but it's a little bit vague. You've got your main ideas, but the precision and focus, it's not quite there. What are you talking about? Directly. Exactly. So I would probably give it 6 for that. It should be 7, but it's a little bit vague. Now, logical organization. Okay. Can we understand the message? Well, yeah. Logical sequence. Okay. Clear progression, clear central topic. I think cohesion, coherence here is not bad. It's not bad. So, should it be controlled by the government? You say yes, it should be banned, authorization. But again, though, we've got a little bit of repetition here. So the government should step forward to ban. They should get authorization. The government should manage advertising. So these 3 sentences are pretty similar, virtually identical, in fact. And there's some progression here, but again, we've got a couple of sentences that's basically the same. So in terms of progression, we can see clear overall progression. It could be a little better. Central topic's clear, the paragraphing is good. I give it 7 for cohesion. I give it 6 for task response. And I give it a 7 there. It could be better. It should be better, though. Should be better. Don't have too many sentences that basically say the same. You need to be moving on. Vocab. Now, some interesting features, but there's quite a lot of repetition. Children. So, advertisement. So, let me see what we've got here. So, advertise. So, that's right. Advertising. So you've got some changes in the form here, but still there's quite a lot of advertising, advertise, that's better, change the form, advertising. Have I missed any? Advertising. I hope you can see my point here. Advertising, advertisements. Okay, you've changed the form, but still advertising. Advertising companies, advertising. Have I missed any? So, I hope you can see to advertise because you made it advertising again. So that's quite a lot of repetition. Quite a lot of repetition. Advertising, 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 advertising. Children. Let's use a different colour for children. So, children. Childhood's better. Children. I think you can see my point. So either change the word form, child, their child, or youngsters, or use pronouns, you use like offspring or them or their, use some pronouns. But as you see, right, we've got quite a lot. Have I missed any? Children. So we need a bit of variation in terms of your vocab. It doesn't show a sufficient range. So I think that's enough. I'll go through this. So yeah, right. So I think you can see my point there. So resource is limited. I don't think it's as bad as a 5, no. I think it's a rather restricted range, lack of precision. Yeah, I would give it 6. It's not bad, there's some good stuff there, but there's far too many not showing a sufficient range. The grammar's not too bad. Let's have a look. You can see I made a couple of changes, so youngsters, less and less. Grammar's not too bad. Several uses of passive, be stepped forward, to ban them. There's a few different things, articles, verb forms, relative pronoun, article use, preposition, wrong verb form. So advertising, aims, article, verb form. So there's a fair bit of grammar there. A few, well, it's more that than a few. It's more than a few. Errors, okay, I would give it 6. It doesn't impede communication, but as you can see, there's not the same, some of the complex ones are not as accurate. So I give it 6, 6, 6, 6, and 7, what's that, 18, what's that, 6, 12, 18, 7, 25. So what's that, 25, divided by 4, what's that, 12 and a half. That's 12 and a half, 6.25. So they would probably put it down to a 6. So I would give it 6. Should be a little more, but I think 6. You might be pushing it to get 6.5, and I think this particular essay you get 6. Now I did write a sample for you so you can see. I'll just make it a little larger. Okay, so the effects of advertising on children is something that many people are complaining about these days. So, as I said, it's happening now. It's not in the past. In my view, advertising aimed at children is regulating by the government. Some products may not be healthy and could cause an increase in childhood obesity. So, yes, and childhood obesity. So, uncontrolled advertising aimed at children is a side effect of a capitalist and consumerist society. As companies have no interest in social responsibility and are only interested in their profit margins, it stands to reason they must be regulated. For if not, they will advertise sweets, sugary drinks, junk food to entice a child to pester their parents. Particular example. For example, in many countries, TV channels show cartoons on Saturday morning for the kids, and often you will find advertisements for pop and fizzy drinks and chocolate being shown in the advert breaks. Now, I don't know if it's the same in your part of the world, but in the UK, that's what you used to get. On Saturday morning, it's the kiddie programs, the cartoons, all the advertisements, pop, chocolate, sugar, that's what you get because it's aimed at kids. That being the case, it therefore falls to the state to compel advertisers to cease targeting children through their ad campaigns. Unless some regulations are introduced, companies will continue to aim ads at children, often for unhealthy products. So, the answer to this one, yes, the state should. Why? Because if you don't, they will continue to try and sell unhealthy products to kids. The consequences of which will be overweight, unhealthy youngsters with a greater risk of developing serious medical issues in adulthood. Because usually if you're a fat kid, you'll be a fat adult. A recent survey showed 80% of UK heart attack victims were overweight as both children and adults. In conclusion then, advertising focused on children is big business, and many parents are rightly concerned about this. In my view, some form of governmental control on what companies are allowed to advertise to impressionable youngsters should be implemented. Otherwise, unhealthy food and drinks are likely to be desired and consumed by children, leading to a health crisis for them in the future. Okay, so you can see the progression here. Every sentence leads on to the next sentence. Some good stuff here, some good vocab. Compel advertisers. Cease targeting. Entice a child to pester. Have no interest in social responsibility. With some good idiomatic language in this. The consequences of consuming these products will be developing serious medical issues. So there's some good vocab there. The grammar, of course, is perfect. Task response, it does as it should. Answers the questions in terms of cohesion, coherence. We've got that logical progression. So what I'll do, I'll just pull this down so you can see the whole essay on the screen. Okay, so I hope that helps.